TAO Te Ching 26. The heavy is the root of the light. The unmoved is the source of all movement. Thus the master travels all day without leaving home. However splendid the views, she stays serenely in herself. Why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. If you let restlessness move you, you lose touch with who you are. Heavy is the source of light. Stillness is the master of impatience. So the sage travels all day and never leaves his supply wagon. Despite glorious sights, the sage lives apart. This is how he transcends them. How can the master of 10,000 chariots act lightly in public? Act lightly, lose the source. Act with haste, lose the throne. So again, we're talking about the source of consciousness, or the proper identity. So realizing that the heavy is the root of the light, or that the darkness is the source of the light, you will not get confused in your identification. The more that you focus on the outside, identify with the outside to the responses and reactions of the outside, the more you'll be lost. Because the outside is just a reaction to the inside. So it's a reaction to creation. Creation is the same letters as reaction. So thus the master travels all day without leaving home. Again, it's the identification. It's realizing that you're always within. No matter where you go, you're always at home. And no matter where you go, there you are. So no matter how splendid the views, you stay serenely in yourself, because the outside, it's not as serene. It might be beautiful. It could be a bunch of things, but it's not as complete or as serene as the inside. Because the outside is a refraction or reflection or a ripple, an echo from the inside. So why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? Basically saying, like, how can the master of the 10,000 chariots act lightly in public? Basically, how can you identify with the external part, with your body, with pride, with ego, whatever? How can you identify with the external, with the temporary, rather than the eternal? Or you'll lose the throne, you lose the source through that false identification of identifying with the light rather than the source of light. And then in that case, you would need speed. There's endurance with realizing the source. There's endurance and there's no rush, because everywhere you go, you're on your way back to the source. So why would you act with haste? And if you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. Again, it's just focusing on the external. And then moving from restlessness, you lose touch with who you are, because you're not moving from a place of stillness. If you're moving from the chaos, moving from a thought, moving from an emotion, those are already effects of a cause. But once you get back to the stillness, then you can get back to the causes of things. And then again, the source is, the source of all movement is the unmoved. So the more that you get back to that likeness, to the stillness, the more that you get back to your own likeness, you realize where you come from, and then you realize where you're going. So you're never flattered by the outside. Despite the glorious sights, the sage lives apart. You're living in the world, but you're not of it. Very simple stuff. The sage travels all day and never leaves his supply wagon. Realizing the internal source is infinite supply, infinite source. Infinite production from the inside, not focused on the external destinations, because you're always at home.